You are listening to the Enormocast.
Hey there. Well, you still have Vanessa's sexy voice ringing in your head. And before you've started to furiously press the +10 on your phone, don't do it. Stop. Remember, there's a couple ways to help out some climbers out there and help out the Enormocast and get cool shit sent right to your door. Go to boulderer.com and enter Enormocast at checkout for a discount on those glasses that will save your neck. And or go to peterwgilroy.com for climbing-inspired jewelry, accessories for both men and women, all handmade by Peter Gilroy, a climber, and enter Enormo at checkout for a discount and to help the podcast. So remember, belayespecs.com, Enormocast at checkout, or peterwgilroy.com, enter Enormo at checkout. All right, next commercial. No, wait. Just listen. Don't press the forward button. Not yet. Just listen. Come on. Climbing girls and boys know that Indian Creek season is upon us, which means only one thing: more profile pics of people doing yoga in front of desert sunsets. But what it really means is we're talking about cams. Where the hell are we going to get enough cams? And with the introduction of the ultralights in 2016, the Black Diamond Camelot still reigns supreme when it comes to plugging up those mega splitters with more swagger than a crusty lifer lapping incredible handcrack for the 140th time. Wait, that might be me. Anyway, Camelots, ultralight or not, are the go-to cam in the Des and beyond. You know it, I know it, even the guidebook knows it. So if you want to bang out the last 10 feet to the chains with confidence, go to blackdiamondequipment.com or your local shop and get a few to throw on the gear pile as you and your friends get ready for yet another best day ever in the creek. And remember, when you support Black Diamond, you support the Enormocast.
Listen, where are you playing it at? Are you playing here?
We're doing the Enormo Dome, whatever it is. It's terrific.
Oh,
it's
yeah, the big
house.
place, that side of town. That's a big
nice.
place. You sold it out. I'll see.
You really should.
The hell are you doing? I couldn't sleep. I'm checking the ropes. There was a frayed end on your rope, and I'm cutting it out. Bad weather. Now or later, anytime.
Today's show is brought to you by Black Diamond Equipment, with support from Maxim Ropes.
And the fine folks at La Sportiva. And don't forget our charter sponsor, Bonfire Coffee. Go to bonfirecoffee.com and enter Enormo at checkout for a discount on great coffee and to support the Enormocast.
And now back to the show.
Hello and welcome to the Enormocast. This is your host, Chris Kalous. It is about 10:45 here in Carbondale, Colorado, at the Enormo headquarters, April 3rd, 2017, and this is episode 126 of the Enormocast, a conversation with climber, doctor, and ninja Noah Kaufman. And we have some business to talk about, a little bit of upcoming events. It's springtime. The Enormocast is busting out a little bit. Of course, 5 Point Film Festival is coming up on the 20th to the 23rd here in Carbondale, Colorado. Great film festival, all sorts of outdoor stuff, including climbing. And per usual, I'll be doing a live Enormocast here in Carbondale, not at the Bonfire Coffee per usual, but across the street and up the street in the park, outdoors. We're going to do it outside. And I believe it's at noon on Friday, but check the program if you're coming up. And also, I think I'll be MC on Thursday night. So come check all that stuff out. Great event, super fun. Glad to be part of it, been part of it for years. So April 20th to the 23rd, and go to 5pointfilm.org, the number 5pointfilm.org for more information. And the other thing I want to do today is give a plug for Mr. Luke Mihal and the folks over at the Climbing Zine. Luke's been on the show a few times, great friend of the show, and just a good friend of mine, actually. And he's down there putting out this compilation of climber writing every few months, and you guys can check it out. There's a new issue on its way. I don't know if it's out at this moment, but it's out any minute. Raw, number 10, Climbing Zine number 10. But go over to climbingzine.com, subscribe, You'll be supporting climbers, not just the folks putting it together like Luke, but the writers that are in the climbing zine. If you believe in dirtbag culture, if you believe in climbers as entrepreneurs, then you should support the climbing zine and Luke down there in Durango. So climbingzine.com, new issue raw. All right, let's talk about this Noah Kaufman interview. Noah is mostly known, at least on the internet and in the greater media world, as one of the ninjas, the Ninja Doc. He's been competing in the American Ninja Warrior competitions for a few years and kind of added it to his resume, which includes being a great climber, particularly bouldering, also a doctor, also a husband, also a father. Talk a little bit about this full life that he's trying to lead. I'm going to admit, and Noah understood this, that the ninja thing is a little weird, right? Coming from a climbing standpoint. We know that climbers have done really well at it, and some of us maybe watch it, and we all know that Isaac Caldiero won the ninja a couple years ago or last year, and took home $1 million, so that's pretty cool. But I wasn't sure what to think of it, actually, until I sat down with Noah. And the stuff he talked about really made sense to me. And he talks about living a fuller life. And folks have often gotten in contact with me and asked me to interview folks who maybe aren't professional climbers or, people who've given up everything, but the people who are living kind of a fuller life with families and with careers and with jobs, and this ninja thing, and still getting it all done and still climbing as much as he possibly can. And that's who this guy is. He is definitely in a bit of the same category as Rob Pism in terms of someone who can manage his time and get a lot of things done and seems to have endless energy for all sorts of pursuits. And so this talk, it waxes into the philosophical about not just what climbing means, but how to get it done, but also how to have a fuller life and try to, dip your toe in many, many aspects of living versus just the climbing that we always talk about. So I hope you guys enjoy this one and find the ninja stuff as interesting as I did. So let's get to it. A conversation with the Ninja Doc climber Noah Kaufman. Hey there. Is the carefully curated, nonchalant image exuded by your layers of canvas work clothes no longer cutting it at the cliff? Or are those black yoga pants just a little too sheer for broad daylight? Well, Sportiva has the answer with climbing apparel with enough colorful panache to make you feel as sassy as Adam Andre eating a cannoli with Claudia Cardinale on a gondola in Venice. Now that's continental Adam. From a day at the Craig's casual to high-tech outerwear, Sportiva wants you to look good so you can climb good. Or well, their English isn't that amazing, but their new spring apparel line is. So check it out at Sportiva.com or your local shop, or even their new outlet store in Boulder, Colorado. La Sportiva, proud sponsor of the Enormocast.
What's this on?
It's a microphone.
We're trying to record. You're being recorded right now, actually.
Yeah, he can hear you.
Who?
The world. It's going to go on the internet.
Here, say hello, world.
Hello, world.
Okay, get out of here. Go ahead, get out of here. I might pick you up, I might not. All talk about it.
Can you tell me when we get in bed?
Yes, when we get in bed. Now, don't bother us again, or I'm breaking your other arm.
All right, that's on there too now. But so let's just go into the whole ninja thing, because we're here to talk about climbing.
Yeah.
You're a versed climber. You've been developing climbing for years. You have your own resume with a lot of depth in it. And yeah, like I said when I got here, when I kind of did my Enormocast 5-minute Google.
Right.
Because, I mean, a little background is like, we're sitting here wondering if we've ever met. We've run in sort of some similar circles, and we know each other's names and interacted on Facebook, which almost becomes now this like proxy for having met each other. Yeah. But when I went to do my research, it's the ninja thing, and the climbing stuff is just buried by probably volume in terms of the hits that stuff gets on, because it's on a national stage.
Totally.
So you're a climber, and we'll backtrack into that, but tell me about a moment when this ninja thing, what it is, and how like that became such a big part of your, at least kind of public identity.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure we've met at the Crag sometime.
Right.
You look so familiar. And And I listen to the podcast, so I know your voice. And I feel like
I said, there's all these different ways in which we kind of know each other. I always feel like that with climbers. That's it's awesome about the community.
Yeah, it's like
we
tribe.
might have locked eyes at the project wall or something, you know, like that.
Right, it's the family. So yeah, I've been climbing for 25 years, and like a lot of other climbers, the moment I did it, I knew that was the direction of the rest of my life. I knew that was something I really wanted to do. It was something I wanted to be, and it was just something that I instantly identified with it. I knew that I wanted to do it. So fast forward, I guess, 20 years.
And we'll go back too. So
yeah, okay.
I'm not just going to skip it.
Sure. But fast forward to Ninja at that pivotal point, the transition. Brian Arnold, my good friend of a good long time, and I were in Yosemite, where I had a gig as the Yosemite doc.
Okay.
And they put us in a house. I had a house behind the clinic, and I was on call. I could go out and climb. It was fantastic. So we're sitting in Yosemite in my house. Basically, that was the doctor house, and I was on call for the week, and we had cable in there, and we were watching I think it was Spike or G4 or something. It was Ninja Warrior. And we were just kind of laughing, like, oh, we would do great on that show. Climbers would do great. And that house was always full of climbers. Isaac Caldiero was in there, Steve Maish, Mike Call. Everybody would come from all around and road trip to Yosemite and hang out at this house. We had great poker games. But anyways, we were watching this ninja show, and we were all like, man, this is like for climbers. Climbers could win this, no problem. A year or two later, it was on American Ninja Warrior. They started the brand or whatever. And Brian, he did it. He was like, I'm doing it, guys. And he applied to the show. He sent in and he did really well. He made like the top 1% of ninjas his first time out. And I think we were like, wow. And so he was like, Noah, you got to do this. So the next year, without any training or anything, I submitted a video. And I think in the video I said, oh yeah, climbers are going to dominate this thing. It's just built for us. And then they took me on the show, and that started kind of this avalanche of the following 5 years. And now I've been doing Team Ninja Warrior. I've done American Ninja Warrior 3 years now, and Team Ninja Warrior 2 years. And Matt Wilder, who everybody obviously knows, is on my team for Team Ninja Warrior. So we have a show coming up on May 2nd on USA. Our team battles other ninja teams in head-to-head racing. So it's pretty exciting. And I just kind of got sucked in. And the great thing is climbing just prepares you so well for ninja that all the climbers, we instantly did so well, and it accelerated climbing, I think, and put it on the map. Joel Brady called it the climber senior circuit, and it kind of was. Joel Brady did it, and Matt Wilder and myself and Brian, and we're all kind of mid to late 30s. I'm 42 now. And it's just been a really fun chance to go out and show your skills and just tackle this crazy obstacle course that a lot of it relies on upper body. It's been very interesting, and now we've taken it and we've run with it, and we're putting on our own competition that everybody can come and check out. And if anybody wanted to try a Ninja Warrior course, they can now.
Well, tell me about that, because that's kind of part of what got me here was I think an email from your organization or something that was like, hey, we're doing this thing. But then I was like, well, I'm going to go talk to these guys because they're climbers. Right. First and foremost, but as long as we're talking about what's this
Sure,
event.
I'll mention it. Yeah. And we would love to have climbers come out and just, personally, between you and me, I love watching climbers excel at Ninja. We've got $30,000 in cash and prizes.
All right.
And some sponsored athletes like Nathaniel Coleman, the bouldering champion. Obviously, everybody knows him. He's coming out to compete. A ton of climbers are coming out to compete. And so, April 29th and 30th at the Magnus Arena. It's going to be a huge indoor arena.
Where's that? Well, this is worldwide. No.
Oh, yeah.
You got to be more specific.
Sure. Denver, Colorado.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Denver, Colorado, April 29th and 30th. You go to wolfpackninjatour.com. All one word, Wolfpack Ninja Tour. Okay. And you can learn all about it, see videos of the course that we're testing. And really, it's going to be head-to-head racing, ninja racing, for over $30,000 in cash and prizes. And it's good. I'm a physician. This benefits Children's Hospital of Colorado. Okay. It does some real good things. We're subsidizing kids' tickets, and honestly, on this first event, we're trying to break even. But if we can, we're going to turn this into a national tour and build it out into a real sport. And so it's pretty exciting. Jeff Britton's going to be there, one of the first American Ninja Warrior, along with Isaac Caldiero. Isaac, I don't think will make it, but it's going to be a great event. And if anybody can come out, we want to see climbers come out and take the podium for sure. Like anybody who does World Cup or Nationals or anything, come out and compete. It's going to be off the hook, fun, racing head to head with other climbers, ninjas, and a lot of it is upper body campusing, super fun courses.
Are you at all like, the people who've come up with this show, like, do you have any? Are you sort of involved enough to kind of have talked to them about their conception of this whole operation?
Yeah, and they're a TV show, and their job is to make money and to sell advertising. They love anything that extends the brand and that's good for the ninjas. And since all the top ninjas are going to be at this Wolfpack Ninja Tour at the end of April, they support it. Jesse Graff's going to be there, Megan Martin, Joe Moravsky, Jeff Britton, everybody who people kind of recognize from the show is going to be there competing. And it's going to be really exciting to see who takes home the cash.
Right on. Yeah, well, that's a good event in terms of climbing for that, if there's that kind of money floating around too. So
yeah, you think about it, it's a lot more money than like World Cups or national competitions. $30,000 in cash prizes. Climbers definitely should get involved with it and come out and compete. And what we want to do is, from Ninja Warrior, we've found that our fans have told us, like, hey, my family lost 30 pounds, like, or I got my dad to quit smoking, or I want to be a ninja like you guys when I grow up. Dude, it pulls on your heartstrings. We're actually like making a difference in these kids' lives. I want to have an impact on childhood obesity in this country, leave a legacy and show my boy that you can do something. So this has become like a new climb of sorts, a new obstacle. And I'm definitely climbing a little bit less and really focused on this obstacle. It's amazing. It's amazing, dude. But it's amazing also to be at the point in my life where I've been a doctor for 13 years and I'm not that motivated by the money. It was never like that, I was always in debt until I got out of med school. Even it was just crazy debt. So it's been very interesting going on this adventure for this thing, and it's cool to have a charity partner and to have raised like a bunch of money for them. And I want to blow this. I want to blow it up. I want to blow this up and like provide kids with their role models and like plant seeds of greatness, and affect the obesity rates, which are like 7 in 10 adults are overweight or obese in this country. 1 in 3 kids, and 1/3 of those kids are going to have early heart disease, diabetes, and cancer, and die and suffer. But they like listen to ninjas. They don't listen to climbers, and believe it or not, they don't listen to doctors. People just go to sleep.
Right.
And there's like a lot of mistrust for doctors.
Sure.
But they listen to ninjas. It's crazy. Yeah. So it's been a crazy adventure, and I got sucked in, and like kids hugging my leg, like I'm like the ninja doc. It's really fun.
I just talked to Eric Weinmeier.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how these ideas for all the crazy stuff he's done, whether it was even climbing, first it was climbing Denali, second it was climbing, Everest, all these things, like they started out with somebody kind of mentioning it to him and being like, that's stupid. There's no way I could do that. Right. And so your little story there about a bunch of climbers sitting in a house and going like, we dominate that. But 999 out of 1,000, then you just grab another beer and like forget about it.
Right.
And so somebody, who was it you said that, like
Brian Arnold?
Yeah, he said I'm doing it, and like,
he's like I'm doing it.
Right.
And then Isaac did it, and people may or may not know, but only 2 climbers are the only 2 people to ever finish the show.
Okay.
And Jeff Britton did it first, but then Isaac Caldiero did it and shaved off 3 seconds, and they're both V13 climbers.
Right.
And then Isaac won $1 million.
Right. Well, yeah, that's kind of that's like one little tidbit that's really well known in climbing circles.
Right.
Like,
it's like, dang,
dude, what a mill! Like,
he did it.
Right.
A climber did it.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
So now, what is he? Has he disappeared into like a jungle in Costa Rica or something? What's he doing now?
A jungle in Chattanooga.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
he and Laura bought a house in Chattanooga. they've toured the world and went to South Africa,
Cool.
and they're enjoying life and climbing.
Yeah.
Ninja Warrior is very stressful, and that's the thing. And and we tell everybody 90% of the year we're climbing, right? Like I'm going to the gym, I'm going outside, I'm bolting routes. Now that's like a big thing for me, although most of my career has been bouldering. And it's the thing I think about and dream about.
Right.
And then we do Ninja Warrior for a little bit. Whereas some of these ninjas train year round for Ninja Warrior. So.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because as climbers, we're super snobby. And, and I can imagine that when you guys saw it on the TV, it was like kind of funny and rolled your eyes. And then when your buddy was like, I'm going to really do it, everybody kind of like laughed and rolled their eyes. And, but then again, you got to walk against the grain and just say, screw it, I'm going to try this, whether you guys think it's silly or not.
Yeah. And people are starting to do that. Josh Levin, who's, a great national youth climber who's just coming on the scene, he's doing it. There's a ton of climbers who are starting to, realize that, it's kind of funny, do this TV show and, it's not climbing. I would rather go climb. But at the same time, it's a really incredible experience. It's like this dreamlike experience when you're out there.
Right.
And it's just bizarre. It's totally bizarre.
It seems really wild.
It's like a dream, and then you come back and your real life is climbing. And climbing is like definitely way better.
Yeah.
But, it's fun when you're on the course for those 2 minutes.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about your climbing then.
Yeah, sure.
And you said you've been climbing for 25 years.
Yeah.
And where'd you start?
So I started in North Carolina on an outward bound when I was 16 years old.
Okay.
And did a multi-pitch route on Table Rock. And I was hooked.
Right.
It blew my mind how rad it was,
Were you from North Carolina, or was that just where you ended up on the course?
Yeah, that's where I ended up. I grew up in Chicago. Got out of there when I was in college. And but we used to go to the
Where'd you grow up in Chicago?
I grew up, actually, until I was 5, I grew up in Lincoln Park. And then moved up to Winnetka and went to New Trier High School.
All right. LBV, Libertyville.
Oh, right no
here.
way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure. We wrestled Libertyville.
Yeah. So similar era, though. You're a little younger than I am, but
right.
But yeah, so there you go. Good Midwest stock sitting right here.
Yeah, and we both ended up in Colorado.
Yeah, this is true. So anyway, I interrupted. So you were climbing in North Carolina.
Yeah, I climbed in North Carolina and just really loved it. There were no climbing gyms back then. And then, went to college in Miami and climbed whenever I could, but it wasn't a full-time thing.
Yeah, in Miami.
You're right. Yeah. But I had I think I had some climbing holds on my loft.
Sure.
And I did pull-ups, and I trained a little bit. I wanted to climb, but and then I would take summers and we would go on climbing trips all summer, and it was really fun. And then all of a sudden it kind of changed my life moving to Colorado, Steamboat Springs. And I met my buddy Matt Bliss and the Chancellor brothers, who used to come out and hang out with us. Now they do so ill, of course. And we would just climb. And I ended up going to Moab, ended up going to Waco for the first time, and just, again, expansive, mind-altering, wow, this is, okay, I got a boulder, specifically. This is amazing. It's kind of distilled what I want to do. I want to get as good as I can at this and push my own limits. It's the same thing I think everybody kind of goes through. And then, I road tripped through the years. I took years off at a time. I took a year off after college. I took a year off after med school, and just spent time on the road climbing. And then I built, climbing gyms in my garage. I mean, I was fully hooked and addicted from the beginning. So,
So you did undergrad in Miami.
Yeah, undergrad in Miami, and then took some time off. I actually lived in Japan for a year and then climbed for a year.
Okay.
So I took a couple years off, and then I went to med school at Tulane in New Orleans. And so
Jeez, dude. What's up with these colleges in the middle of the flattest places in the U.S.?
It's funny you asked that. And the reason why I chose those spots...
Let's say you could stop climbing and concentrate on what you're doing.
Right. I was worried that... I always had a dream of becoming a physician, of becoming a doctor. And I was worried...
From how young?
Oh, I was like 2 years old.
Oh, really?
I mean, it was something I always wanted to be.
Huh,
like,
okay.
I never had a choice even. I felt like it was, maybe I was brainwashed by my parents. I have no idea.
Right.
But suffice it to say, I really wanted to focus on my studies, and I did. And part of that meant I had to keep climbing at an arm's length and keep it something that was like in the future that I was going to dedicate, a lot of time to. But it's always been like that because, I think you can spend your whole life climbing and that's great, but there's just so much to this incredible adventure. There's so much to explore and so much knowledge to gain and wisdom that this is just, this is like a dream. This is like maybe it's heaven. I mean, who knows, but we're here for a little bit and we get to experience this incredible, crazy life that we can shape the way we want. And it just would be a little bit too narrow for me to focus solely on something, even the thing I love the most, which is climbing.
Right. Well, that's it shows, I don't know, it shows a fair bit of, that's quite a bit of kind of like executive functioning and like forward thinking for a young person to be like, you know what, I'm gonna like, I know what I'm like, and I need to keep it away from me. It's pretty interesting. Were you always a kid like that?
I think so. I was never a very popular kid, which is actually maybe part of the reason why now I really relish in the limelight. I love to be, in the middle of it all. I love to have friends. I love to really develop relationships. It's super important to me because growing up, we moved from basically the city up to the suburbs, and it was a real hard adjustment. And no, I didn't have a lot of friends growing up for a long time. And it's not really a sad story because it ended up helping to make me who I am. And I think it gave me a real kind of understanding of relationships and dealing with other people and maybe some insight as to, why things weren't working out for me to be a popular kid. So, with that being said, I've always been fairly introspective. And I really do think quite a bit about a lot of things. And so, perhaps it was natural to create my own path in an intellectual fashion.
Well, if you're an introspective guy, then I'm going to ask you this question, which I ask sometimes.
Sure, I'll be totally open.
And I definitely get a mixed bag. But what do you think it is then about climbing? You've got this dream that you were going to be a physician, and that sparked you for years and continues to. This other half, what was it about climbing then, more specifically, and maybe specifically bouldering, that was enough of a draw that you almost felt like, okay, if I go too hard with that, then I'm going to lose this dream. Do you know what I mean? Like that means there's something there that's really magnetic for you.
Yes.
To even it's like, even it was almost becoming a piece of kryptonite to your other dream that you had to get rid of it for a while.
It's not that it was a kryptonite, but it's more that it was an absolute drug, Right. There's something about climbing that I think a lot of people will understand is so completely zen, and that may be a cliche term, but it gets you into this flow state. It's a meditative thing. As I was telling you earlier, I interviewed Chris Sharma for our podcast, the Wolfpack Ninja podcast, and that'll be out in April. And Chris and I talked a lot about this, and so it's really interesting to get his perspective. But I feel the exact same way. Climbing to me is a chance to let go and step outside of myself and let the machine kind of take over and work its way through reality. And it's like kind of a search for perfection, right? Because if you're trying something that's difficult for you and you try 100 times, then all of a sudden you attain it. It might be like timing that got it for you, hip position. It's just something that you don't know if it's possible, and then you attain it. And there's like an element of purity and perfection there that is egoless, and it's very addictive. And so even just being successful on a move and not sending a boulder problem for me at this point is something that I get really hopped up about. I get really excited about. So climbing was always something that I could easily spend my whole life doing and not focus on material possessions or money or prestige or any of those things. But at the same time, there's positive and negative things about all those other things. And at the same time, I wanted to experience life full circle. I wanted to have a kid. I wanted to be a father. I knew from an early age that I just wanted to get the full experience in life. And I felt like if I was just a climbing bum my whole life, which I would be really happy doing, I don't need to take showers. I love living in the back of a truck, climbing all the time. But I really wanted to create, maybe a more diversified life. And it wasn't really a risk question. It wasn't like, well, what if I break my leg or become paraplegic and can't climb? Then what do I do? It was more of a question of, I just want this experience to have the most well-rounded human experience I can with the days that I have left,
If you're into climbing and you do the road life and you do that kind of thing, it's pretty easy to feel like when you're 25 or whatever it happens to be, that you have it all figured out. And this is, I found, nirvana, and, as long as I keep on this path, and my life's going to be amazing. And I don't know, I haven't seen it turn out that way, to be honest. As much as I love climbing, as much as I think it's like a lifelong pursuit, all these other things.
Sure.
But also talking to you as now a father and someone who's done a bunch of different things, like I've watched people not change their path, and it doesn't, like I said, it just doesn't turn out that way. It's like...
Yeah, you need balance.
I mean, you spent time in Yosemite.
Oh, yeah. Tons.
And, it's always, I'm always commenting on this on the show, and times change in Yosemite, but there's always a contingent of really miserable people there, whether they're dominating in any era or they're not.
Totally.
And I've always said that, like, I have a feeling that they thought that was going to be the end of the road, and that was going to be like everything they'd always wanted, and it probably was for a little while, but then it stopped fulfilling them. But they're kind of there, and I think anybody who's hung out there can comment on that, like these folks that are just kind of whiling away the days in Yosemite, or any climbing area.
Well, and I think that's partly what happened to Dean. I mean, Dean was just an amazing guy who had to keep pushing it to change, to change it up. He couldn't just be the guy, dwindling away in the valley, and becoming part of, So I think that's what ultimately happened to Dean, was he pushed it a little bit too far. But yeah, I mean, for most people, I think, and I was the same way. Climbing was that nirvana. And I instantly realized that, when I was young, and we've all had this experience, that my favorite song would come on, and I taped it. I had the old cassette tape, and I taped it, and it was the best song ever. And I listened to it. And 2 weeks later, I was sick of it. And it was the best song of all time. I was like, for the first couple of days, I was like, you got to listen to this song. I'm singing the song. And eventually everything gets old. And even with relationships, dating, or even marriage, everything, it's a work in progress. And it starts off, it's like, wow, this is the best thing ever. But everything in this world will get old at some point. As you get familiar with it. And to rediscover it, it brings back the magic and brings the gift back to it. And so having the balance in your life and being able to, if you're lucky enough to have multiple passions, I love guitar, so I play blues and classical guitar, and I'll hang it up for 6 weeks or 3 months or whatever it is. I won't play a single lick. And then I'll bring it out and I'll slowly get back into it, and then I learn a new song, and it's the same passion. And the only thing that has kind of transcended that is climbing. And then, climbing I always do. But even now, climbing has, slowly, ninja's been introduced, and I'm looking forward to a day when I'm road tripping full time again, later on towards the end of my life. But for now, it's like it's the most important of my portfolio of important things.
Sure. Yeah. important activities anyway.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's a pursuit. It's a lifestyle.
Right.
I mean, it brings as far as I'm concerned, the coolest people in the world together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, climbers are my favorite people, like
Right.
hands down, the most accepting, the most genuine, authentic, non-judgmental people in general. And I'm generalizing.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Climbing has changed.
No,
but-
you're preaching to the choir, my friend.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I totally, dude.
The podcast fist bump.
Yeah, podcast. But I mean, especially, and not to single out anybody, but especially, you know, the lifers and people who've been in it for quite a bit. You know, I mean, it's just as an understanding there, you know, like the hat tip, the nod.
Right.
You know?
Do you, let's talk a little bit about your, just kind of some of the places and things you've done.
Yeah.
We just went out on the philosophical limb there. So you spent a lot of time in Yosemite and you're like, yeah, totally. So you're a boulderer.
Yeah.
So what brought you to Yosemite in terms of spending time there?
Oh, is this the moment where we like transition into spray time? I love this. This is great.
Whatever you want to do, yeah.
No, I mean, Yosemite, I was like everybody else. I was overwhelmed. I walked into the place. I drove into the place, and I was, you know, literally mouth dropped to the floor, like holy. You know, it was just unbelievable. So I knew I had to climb everything there. I really didn't care about being a boulderer. I obviously wanted to do Midnight Lightning. I spent a couple seasons, and it was warm, and ultimately did Midnight Lightning, and that was like, you know, a great moment. But then my buddies wanted to do the nose, and so we did El Cap, and that was my first big wall. And that was crazy too, because I had to learn how to Jumar and haul the pig, and there were 3 of us, and we spent 5 days up there. We bivvied at Sickle Ledge. That's how psyched we were. So, you know, I mean, it was crazy. And then
you're not far from the deli yet,
right?
On Sickle Ledge.
Yeah. And the guy we went with was we hooked up with this random dude whose name was also Noah, and you know, 19 pitches up, his rope cut on an edge, and he fell 10 vertical feet to this like curb-sized ledge, and I grabbed his daisy and clipped it back in, and it was unbelievable. It was a crazy moment, and obviously he wanted to bail after that, but
well, so hold on.
That was crazy.
Hold on. Let me get a little bit of the logistics of this.
Yeah.
So dude is what, leading? Just not far off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was leading. I think it was like a 10D off width at Eagle Ledge. Okay. I remember this stuff. You know, I don't have a topo in front of me, but you know.
Yeah, you're going to remember the ledge that you cut the rope and you grabbed him.
So he clipped into a fixed piece that should have had a runner on it, and the rope was zigzagged over a sharp granite, you know, really narrow arete. And he got high, and you know, he got above his piece and said, "Hey, I'm going to fall." And he had told us some things that, in retrospect, you know, we realized he didn't have the level of experience that we thought he had when he originally told us. Like when we got to the top of El Cap, he didn't know how to get off, but he said he had done the nose before, that kind of thing. And so when he fell, we were like, you know, when he was about to fall, we were like, okay, well, you know, go ahead, take a whip. We were like, why is he complaining? And so he fell, and there was just a poof of dust, and I thought the piece had blown. He landed on the ledge, like just fell straight to the ledge. He was super scared. And like if I had been in the situation, I wouldn't have been scared at all. I would have like jumped off the ledge to let the rope take me so I didn't break my ankles.
Sure.
But he luckily was very scared and just fell against the wall and somehow landed on this, literally, it's like a foot wide ledge. Right. And it's just, it's pretty vert up there. It's not like the slabs anymore. And I looked at him, and his rope was just kind of blowing in the wind, and he was totally unattached from the wall. And before anybody said anything, I just grabbed his daisy and clipped it into the belay. It ended up and we all looked over the edge and like looked down, and in our mind's eye, like he's tumbling with the rack and everything, and becomes this like long catch-up mark down on the slabs. And he just knelt down and started crying. And we were all like...
But you didn't like break his ankles or anything?
No, he was totally fine.
Stuck
he was probably 12 to 14 feet up.
Right.
And he was a nimble little guy. And
Yeah. He fully stuck it.
He fully stuck it, but I don't think like
on purpose. He just
I don't think it was like ninja stick. I think it was like serendipity stick. It was like, divine intervention, if that's your thing. But and actually that was when
probably his thing now.
Well, no. After that, he got a little crazy and started free soloing.
Oh, he's like I'm totally like unbreakable.
So that was a crazy good adventure.
You said it got written up or something?
Yeah, it got written up in Rock and Ice, I think, as Screamer of the Month, and somebody chose to call him Falling Noah because his name was Noah, and they called me Catching Noah. They glorified it. I didn't catch him,
Right.
But ironically, there were some crazy things that happened also on the nose. We saw a helicopter go by. We heard a loud noise, and and then the helicopter came by later, and that's when the apron fall happened and killed
Peter Tarbish. That one, Peter Turbish, rather.
I think so. Was he climbing with Carrie?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, you remember those guys?
Well, I went to college with them. I mean, they were.
Man. So we
were
we
in Gunny. Yeah, they were in Gunnison when I went back to school.
Oh wow!
So I knew. I knew Carrie and Peter for sure.
So and we were friends with those guys and hanging out in the parking lot every day. And we were there that whole the whole summer.
Right.
And it brings back memories. Carrie was up on the route, and what a nightmare that was. But we were on the nose when that happened.
Okay.
And we saw the helicopter roll in. We heard it. It was crazy.
Right.
And but other crazy things happened. Dean and Timmy passed us on the nose, I think like twice.
You've been up there for a while.
Yeah,
it's like zing, zing.
Yeah, they were like on one of their like 4-hour jaunts or whatever. And it was an incredible experience, but he lived. This guy Noah lived, and that was crazy. And it's like one of those things you keep with you. I still have my end of the rope.
Oh, right.
Around my steering wheel. It's been over 15 years,
right.
But on my truck, and one end is cut where I cut it with a knife to share it with him,
right,
and the other end is blown out.
Right.
Yeah, it's frayed. And then the rope I've been using for cleaning off boulders for the last 15 years and bolting routes, which I shouldn't be doing on a dynamic rope, but whatever.
Right. Rad.
Crazy.
Yeah. And so at this point, were you working there? Like, because you said earlier that you then...
Right. No, I was in med school.
Oh, okay. You were in...
I wouldn't work there for 7-8 years later, until 7-8 years later, when I was like a much better climber and more experienced. And that was a crazy gig. But between those times, I definitely did the Waco Tanks for 3 months at a time, Bishop for 3 months at a time. I went to New Zealand with Dave Hume, and we developed Flock Hill, put up a bunch of lines there, put up lines in South Africa, took several trips to South Africa with Wills and Lisa and Daniel and Paul and Tony Lemich, and I put up the Hatchling there. Which is this great boulder that you can like rock.
Oh, right on.
It's really cool. One of the few boulders in the world that you can do that. And a great story. Actually, Paul Robinson I saw he was just on your podcast.
Yeah, he was on a few months ago. Yeah.
I haven't listened to his episode yet, but he was like 5th day on. All his fingers were taped. He was destroyed, and I went to try this great line that the Austrians had found the year before, but they couldn't finish off. And Paul and I ended up going, back to back on it, and he was just so exhausted and so wrecked. Here's a V15 climber. It was cool. I was able to swoop the FA
on that because he was
on
wrecked.
Pablo. So
nice.
And then he wanted to topple the boulder.
Out of spite.
No, and I love it. And Paul's a good friend. He's a great guy. But and so you definitely, and then we went to Tahoe. We lived in Tahoe for 8 years, developed the bouldering there, and just did uncountable first ascents there. And started bolting when I came here to Colorado 3 years ago and fell in love with it. And now we're developing one of the best limestone crags in the West.
Right.
Deep Creek. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, up above Glenwood.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
So we can't spray too hard about it, man.
You know what?
It's a secret cliff.
It's not. It's too late, man.
I know it is, but
yeah, it's too late. And you
can kind of reseal the bottle. You don't want to tell the Enormo Nation all about it.
Well, nobody's gonna go up there. It's too far to go.
It is.
And we're still developing. So if you go there and a big hunk of limestone falls on your head, that's a caveat emptor.
It's a little bit of a short season too.
Yeah. Have you gotten on?
No. I can tell you no. I've been up there once, and I had my baby with me.
Oh yeah.
He was like, I don't know, 5 months old.
Oh right.
And I did one route. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I've taken Zun and rappelled in.
Yeah, we did the hike.
Yeah. They could get shut down for sure. There's cavers there, and
I know all about your caver problem.
Yeah, yeah. There was a war.
Yeah, a sort of a war.
Someday soon that'll be let out of the bag. Come back and we'll let everybody know what happened at Deep Creek. So.
So that's I mean, you moved into route climbing then, is that?
Yeah, so when I moved to Colorado, I moved into route climbing, which, I'm 42 now. My back hurts. I love tall boulders. And so I've taken quite a fefew falls from the top of Evolution and all these climbs, Ambrosia, I love those climbs, but my back after all these years is just a 20-foot fall like that. I'm out for most, for like weeks, and it's hard to climb at all. So, bouldering has just become tougher and tougher, and route climbing I've found a new passion for, and bolting and developing routes has become like unbelievable. We're developing another spot that I put on Mountain Project that's up north here called the Turkey Roost, and I found it, so it's open season. I put up a 3-pitch 13A that is just a world-class bolted route, and it's... And Ian, Dory, and I, and Ryan have also been all up there bolting. And there's projects up there. Everything's open. We really don't keep too many secrets. Life's kind of too short, and there's just too much to do in the world now. It's overwhelming.
It's definitely a philosophy that can, go both ways in terms of whether you want to keep secrets and try to keep just you and your bros at some place, or if there's access issues, which you guys have at Deep Creek to a certain extent.
Unfortunately there is.
I mean, it just hasn't been kind of hammered out what everyone's going to decide up there.
Right, and it's tough too because it is national forest land. Right. So there should be no real access issues, but the road is like it's kind of like not a proper road that cavers have been using for 30 years. If the cavers had this paradise all to themselves for a while, so we don't have to get back into it. But that's been interesting.
Yeah,
and you're right. There are two sides to the coin, and I believe everybody's entitled to their position, and so I totally respect when. People want to keep, an area that they've found, quiet. And I think at the same time, for me, I want to know about all these spots and go to them. And a lot of the times it's interesting. You start talking about spots and people get worried. And 99% of the climbers out there who are in the gym, who are doing stuff, they might come out and check it out once, or they might not. But it generally doesn't lead to a big impact situation unless it's like roadside or the Happies or, So my experience has been that it's always easy to be over concerned, and that keeping places for yourself. And this is just my opinion. I know a lot of people disagree, but I just feel like it's a little selfish. It's a little, it's a little ego involved. Like I know what it's like. I want to get the first ascent. Trust me, I love first ascents. But at the same time, it's like we're all in this together. And I don't know. It seems like way back when there were secrets, but there weren't that many people, and it was mostly 100% egotistical. Like I want to do everything here. And I think you reach a certain point in your life and you developed enough that you're like, there's enough to go around, and this is, like we're all dust and we're going to be gone soon. I know people are going to take issue with what I'm saying, and I'm okay with that now, but at the same time, I want to see new spots,
right?
And people, and I'm trustworthy. Look, if you tell me where your new spot is, I'm not going to go shouting about it. But the bottom line is, if people do that forever, then places actually fall off and never get seen at all.
Right.
And people move on, and I've seen that happen too. And then 10 years go by and people rediscover it, redo everything, rename everything, clean the moss off again. And that's happened in Tahoe, where we thought we did climbs, and lo and behold, they were done 10 years before by Joe Missick and these other guys who were studs, and it's like there needs to be some kind of, there doesn't need to be, but I just want to see everything before I go.
Yeah, you're just like, well, it's funny because this was like the subject of, I think, the second episode I ever did.
Oh, yeah.
Was about like sort of secret crags and the ins and outs of dealing with all that stuff. And there's a lot of hypocrisy in it too, because obviously every area in the world, was once discovered by a bunch of locals who wanted it for themselves.
Right.
So
right.
Whether you're in the Needles in California or wherever it happens to be, it's like you're climbing on other people's work.
Right.
Right. Their awesome secret project at one point. And so it's kind of a little bit hypocritical to say, okay, I want to go climb at all your local areas, but you can't come climb in my area. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the basis of it, where I get a little bit prickly about it, because it's like, well, yeah, if that's the only place you ever climb, then great.
Yeah.
But as soon as you go to Mill Creek, then you're at a place where there's a bunch of people that would just assume you're not there. Yeah. And so that's how it feels, right?
Yeah.
And it's not always awesome. So, but then, there are, like we were just saying, there are access issues. There are places that can't handle a lot of people. And
right.
But the other funny thing, it's not funny, but inevitable thing more and more now with social media is your secret. It's basically it's like sand in your fingers. It's gonna leak out and it's gonna be your fault in the end, because you wanted to tell a few people and you posted that one picture and
if you post one, here's my take on it. If you post one picture on social media, the cat is out of the bag.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's how I had to go to Roy to find Roy, because I saw a picture of this place called Roy and it looked amazing, and I love sandstone. I've got a real thing for sandstone, so I literally drove out there not knowing where it was, just driving around after Google Earthing, looking for it for literally weeks. I had a lot of time off.
Where is this?
It's in northern New Mexico.
Okay.
And now there's a guidebook and whatever. Everybody knows about it. But after a week and a half being out there, the locals took mercy on me. They saw my vehicle and they were like literally like, they knew that I was a climber. They knew I was coming out. I was trying to get a hold of them. I was like emailing people, who posted the photo, and I had leads. I was talking to Nick Duddle. It was like, it was crazy. And finally they brought me in and I saw this place and it was incredible. And I got to contribute some amazing first ascents, like this thing called Icarus. And it was just meaningful for them to share that with me.
Right.
And then the process of it slowly opening up, and now it's a destination and it has a guidebook and it's a fantastic spot. And I've just seen that happen so many times that in the end, almost every time I've seen, it's been better for people to share and to just share with other climbers so that everybody can enjoy it. And then the whole climbing community can be involved with the discussion, with the access, and with everything else, because I think that, if you don't deal with the problem and you keep the access, behind the scenes, and you just keep it small and you don't want anybody know about it, and then nothing ever gets done, and the access is always an issue. So, and Last Chance
it's like
Canyon is a little bit like that.
Get it out there. And
I think just kind of get it out there. It's I think the climbing contingent now, the climbing family is big and strong enough with the Access Fund that we really do have a lot of, and we do a lot of good in the world, and we clean up, and climbers are good people, and we're great stewards of the land. And I just really believe that all the really out there places that the lifers are going to love so much, that are world class, I think that like I feel an obligation. It's the golden rule. I just feel like I would want someone to share that with me.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine if a place like Majorca had never been shared with the world. That still stands today. Lost got into smoking barrels. Like if I had never seen that in my life, I can easily say my life would not be as good. That's awesome. If I hadn't done that route, like it's epic. And that was a secret spot, that was like a locals, like, very amazing Seco Block spot. Yeah. And it was life-changing for me. It was amazing.
So you saw the movie and you were like, I'm going.
Yeah, I saw Clem do it, and Clem's a friend, and like I was like, I know how crazy Clem is, and the way he talked about it, like I know he's a very genuine guy, and how much he loves. Clem is distractible, and like he only really loves certain things. He has an eye for quality, and when he did that, he was like, when I'm not sure if it was a Big Up film or what it was. I saw that, and Brian Capps and I were like, we got to go over there, and I think he had already been there once. And we went just to do that route, and it was epic. Hey, buddy.
I'm not talking about the other thing. I'm talking about we're gonna soon go.
Take a shower and go to sleep?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna be done in just a few minutes.
I love you. Go give us a couple more minutes, okay?
Yep, we're almost finished.
You're a good boy. He's climbing like a champ.
Is he?
Yeah. Well, not now with a broken arm, but.
How did he break his arm? Skateboarding?
No, he was playing with his Matchbox cars, and he was on like a platform, and he like misplaced his hand and fell and broke it, and was facing the wrong way.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, gnarly.
It was gnarly. All right, out of here, buddy.
Cool.
Yeah, he climbs with Baze, Matt's kid. Matt's one of my best friends. He married Samay and I, my wife and I. And Matt and I have road tripped and traveled the world more together than me and anybody else, and now it's so great to see our kids playing together.
Right. And
now we're just interested in traveling new places. Like we went to Albarracín a year or two ago, and it's fantastic. Anyways, I digress.
No, that's fine. Well, let me just ask you a couple last questions about. Sure. You've been talking a lot about this whole idea of having this full life and wanting to sort of do a little bit of everything in terms of trying to have a family and have a career and have climbing and all that sort of thing. So, I mean, what's your sort of feeling on creating this balance where you have these multiple passions, you have these multiple responsibilities? Yeah, absolutely. So, first thing is, I think perspective is really important. And I think I'm lucky with the career that I've chosen that I have constant perspective. The way I see people die all the time in the emergency department, the horrible things that happen to people. I constantly, not in a bad way or an obsessive way, but I think about, death and dying and my life and my death all the time, and I visualize it, and it's something that's really actually an important part of my kind of daily mantra and helps me live my life to the fullest, because I really think, like I said before, that this is heaven, whatever. I'm not a real religious person, so this is this is like maybe your one shot, maybe this is the one shot, and I don't know, I mean, maybe I get to go to heaven or go somewhere else, I don't know, maybe I get reincarnated, I have no idea, but my gut feeling is that this is like the one shot, and then it'll be the same after as it was before, which is just you can't even, there's no words to describe it. So if you have that perspective, and there's ways to get that perspective if you're not like an ER doc working in the ER all the time, but I think helping people, volunteering in a home, or just whatever, however you can get perspective in your life, about how fragile life is and how much some people suffer. Travel does that, I think it's good. But once you get that perspective, I think that the balance comes more naturally, because you don't want to work too hard, but you want to be fulfilled by work and helping other people. You want to play all the time, but you also want to be fulfilled. So the balance kind of works itself out. I think that
you have to become very good at time management, just like you become very good at climbing or any other skill. Time management is a huge and very important skill. So if, I don't watch TV, right? So that's a lot of time that I have. But, I have to make time to spend with my boy and my wife, make time to go on climbing trips. And right now, I'm in the whirlwind with this tour that's coming up, this competition that we're setting up. It's 60 to 80 hours a week of work, and we're working really hard on this to make it an incredible event. So I would say that in order to really, you can think about having balance, you can try and have balance, but to actually have balance, I think you need the perspective first, and then the balance just kind of falls in line, and you're gonna do what is the most fulfilling and the most rewarding, the most fun, but also the most healthy. If you're smoking cigarettes and if you're an alcoholic or whatever, if you have a problem with alcoholism, then you're out of balance. And it may not be a time balance thing, but you're out of balance, and maybe it's a perspective issue, whatever. But I think as long as you always realize that there's a place that you can go and improve your life, and if you can dedicate yourself to self-improvement, then then the balance comes.
Right.
And so a lot of that's perspective. So.
Do you feel like there's a time in somewhere, someday, that climbing becomes less important and maybe out of your life? Or do you see yourself as a lifer?
I totally see myself as a lifer. I've actually, I've thought about, when I'm too old to climb, how I don't know if I could actually do it, but how wonderful it would be to go to the top of El Cap and jump off.
You do ruminate on this a little bit too much, sir.
Maybe
that's it. I can't climb. Nothing's left.
I don't think I would ever get up there. I'd have to hike over from Tuolumne.
Yeah, sure. You're old now.
And
there's some logistic problems with getting out there.
I've made the same horrible joke about my 16-year-old dog, and it's not funny. I mean, I want to climb forever.
Right.
But the way I see people break down and what happens with our bodies, there'll be a time when I won't be able to climb, and hopefully I can minimize that by staying as healthy as possible, and just keep going, just keep enjoying it. I mean, it's funny because nowadays at 42 years old, I'm not really interested in climbing as hard. I was never naturally gifted at climbing. I tried as hard as I could to climb it. I wanted to climb V14, which was the hardest. I wanted to climb V14 so bad, and I got to where I could climb a few V12s, and I spent 23 days on a V13. I just couldn't do it, I just don't have it, I mean, I don't have that. I have the work ethic, and I have the desire, and I even had the time, I think,
Right.
I mean, some people were well, if you didn't go to med school, but that's not true. I mean, I spent so many years, and I trained, and I really wanted it. I just couldn't get to that level. And so now that's not that important to me anymore. And now what's really important to me is quality of the climbing, and hanging out with people and pushing myself on whatever it is.
Right.
It doesn't really matter if I get if I get the effort to try hard, if I get the ability to really, if I feel like I pushed myself, I'm so happy. Even if I fall, close
Right.
to the anchors. I'll fall screaming I'll just get so psyched because I tried hard, and at the end that's really fulfilling.
I have a friend I just learned this, he calls it the Zen send. If
Nice.
you fall at the anchors, then you've actually gotten more out of the route than if you had clipped the anchor. Because you got the feeling of on-sighting the whole thing, if that was what you were trying to do. Then you also got the feeling of failing
and maxing
out and falling. So
right.
You got the whole package, the Zen send, everything. You got to experience everything.
That's very, very interesting. And I think there's some people who would be but you didn't clip the chain.
Yeah.
But I get it. get it.
He's gonna be stoked I brought it up, Bruce.
I had
it, buddy.
But check this out.
Listen.
I had the ultimate Zen send.
Yeah.
Because I got to the top of a route at Maple Canyon and climbed over the top of this hard thing, and really it turns into like almost a slab with cobbles, where it doesn't matter how pumped you are.
Right.
And I grabbed a cobble, went to actually clip the chains, had fully depumped and was fine, was going for the clip, and this massive cobble pulled off when I stepped over to clip the chains, and I went flying, and I hadn't clipped like the last couple bolts, so I took this huge winger, and luckily the cobble didn't kill anybody down below. So that was like the ultimate Zen send.
Yeah, you went even further. Because to pull some loose rock off.
Yeah, I didn't clip the chains. I actually counted that one.
You should count that one.
Yeah, you got to count it.
Yeah, totally. Well, one last thing I was thinking about when you were talking about this perspective, this idea of that comes first, and then you're more of a joke about leaping off El Cap, is that there is a possibility that your perspective will save you from jumping off El Cap. And in other words, there may come a point in your life where what you think now has changed radically to where you can stand and look at your grown son climbing, if he's climbing or whatever it is he's doing, and you can be like, well, climbing actually, I don't need it anymore.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
100%.
I mean, I would hope that all of us who look to this day when their physical body can't do what they want to do anymore, that we're not so, I don't know, in it that suddenly our lives are over, right?
100%. Yeah, and just to be clear and clarify for everybody, I am never going to jump off of El Cap.
No, I know. I mean, it was a metaphor, right?
Yeah,
like
I want every moment with my family.
Right.
I love life.
Right.
Absolutely love it.
No, there's no intervention coming. Don't worry.
Yeah. Don't worry.
Did you hear what he said?
Yeah. Don't hospitalize me. But seriously, I think that day will come. Yeah, and there's a sadness, about that, because I've climbed for more than half my life, a good deal more than half my life, and it's my best moments, all my best moments, my best relationships, the best times have all been climbing. And my wife is a climber, and and Samay is. Nobody really knows Samay, and she's like an undercover kung fu agent. She's climbed V11. She's a way better climber than I am. And like she's totally content with just going out and climbing, and she would be totally okay with not climbing. And so I learn a lot from her. So it's interesting you say that, because for me, and it's hard to admit, but I think everybody has a little bit of ego involved, and I think for me, at a point in my life, maybe before now, it was important to get a first ascent, or it was important to push my grades and get a new grade, and and I think that I've learned a lot from Samay, because she doesn't care at all. Right. She wants to push herself, but then nobody needs to know about it, and she's really like this amazing, humble, powerful person that has been like a huge and important part of my life. And I was lucky enough to give her the gift of climbing, and have her start climbing when she hopped on my Woody in New Orleans in 2000. That started her adventure, and so we've been all over the world together, and now we got a great little boy. So it'll be interesting to watch his adventure with climbing.
Well, cool, dude. Thanks for coming on. There was a lot of deep thoughts on there.
Yeah, totally. No, we definitely went there.
Cool. And I appreciate you having me into your place. So
yeah, thanks so much. You want to go try the salmon ladder?
No, I already. Like I said, if you got some ortho that'll give me a discount on shoulder surgery, we'll.
Oh yeah, we got a couple ortho climbers. Yeah.
Right on. Thanks, Noah.
Thank you, brother. It's so good to see you, and I appreciate you coming up.
Okay, folks, thanks for listening. Thanks for being there. And thanks to Noah for sitting down in his home, having me into his home. And I want to mention again, to make sure you know about the Wolfpack Ninja Tour, April 29th and 30th. the Magnus Arena, University of Denver, Denver, Colorado. Go to wolfpackninjas.com for information about how you can get into the competition, buy tickets to see it, get your kids involved, all that sort of thing. So go check it out, wolfpackninjas.com, the Wolfpack Ninja Tour. Also, he wanted me to mention, I think he's rubbing it in a little bit, just a little bit. He's got Chris Sharma coming up this month. I believe actually the first episode's already out. It's a two-parter on his Wolfpack Ninja podcast, also at wolfpackninjas.com. So, how many times did I say Wolfpack Ninja there? A lot. But anyway, it's got Chris on. He's an old friend of Noah's. They've climbed together, and he got him on. Why haven't I had him on? Well, he lives in Spain, and he's a very busy man. He's got a little Sharma baby of his own, actually, dealing with that. So, one of these days, I'll have him on. Don't worry. We'll have Chris Sharma on the Enormocast. You know, these pro climbers, they're like a prime rib. You know, just, you gotta let it age just slightly. You don't want it to spoil, but you want it to have a little bit of texture and flavor. And so, you know, when Chris is ready, when he's ready to really open up and get into that juice and that meat and that big hunk of fat that runs around the outside, then that's when the Enormocast will pounce. Don't you worry. We'll be slicing into Sharma's prime rib soon enough. All right, folks, let's make sure your own meat sack doesn't receive any damage this spring as you're getting into climbing here in North America, where life is getting warmer and drier, I hope, where you are. And you're getting out on the rock, don't forget to check that knot.
My name is Rex, and if you study with my 8-week program, you will learn a system of self-defense that I developed over 2 seasons of fighting in the octagon. It's called Rex Kwon-Do. I need a volunteer.